Hello guys and welcome to this new video. So today we'll watch the game between Svidler and Karjakin, the final of the Fide World Chess Cup 2015 in Baku. And the format changed a bit for the final as we don't play 2 classical chess games but 4 classical chess games. So if someone wins a game, he has more time to come back in the match. So Svidler starts with the move knight f3, Karjakin plays knight f6, pawn to g3, pawn to d5, bishop g2, pawn to e6. So Svidler is repeating the pass that Elianov chose in the rapid games against Karjakin in the semi-final. He had some decent position with white, so I think it's a good opening choice. Castle, bishop e7. And here is the first big choice Svidler had to make. Probably made it home, but I mean that's the first choice we really see on the board. He can go d4 or c4, which would lead to a Catalan, or he could go d3, which would lead to what we call a King's Indian position type. King's Indian attack to be more exact. This is the type of position just to show you guys as we just have a game today for the one interest in opening. So we will play then e4 and rook e1. I mean rook e1, knight bd2, e4. You can play that if you play pawn to e4, you can play the same setup against the French defense. Pawn to e6, pawn to d3, not d4. Black goes d5, you go knight d2, knight f6 and pawn g3, and you find exactly the same pawn structure. So it might lead to some interesting games. We'll see it later on, but just wanted to show you guys how you can transpose in chess sometimes from totally different start. Like here we started pawn to e4, in the other game we start knight f3. Here we have a French defense, but we can find out that we can have the same setup. So it's just to make a little insight. So pawn to d3, short castle, knight bd2. So he's preparing e4, because after e4, pawn takes, you don't want the queen to be threaded. So that's why we start with knight bd2, pawn to c5, pawn to e4, knight c6, rook e1, and pawn to b5. So here we can see that black is expanding the queen side, and white is going to have play on the king side. That is exactly what happens if white chooses to play e5. He didn't play so, but this is a very typical way to continue. There is even a game between Svidler and Karjakin in 2014 when Svidler played that. Karjakin also played this position with the white pieces a few times. There is a game with Dominguez later. Might continue by knight d7, knight f1, bishop b7, pawn to h4. So white is going to bring the knight through g4 and push the h-pawn. Queen c7, bishop f4, protecting the pawn, and rook c8. And so black is really attacking the queen side while white is playing on the king side. Though here, after pawn takes d5, black goes knight takes d5. The move pawn takes d5 is more popular. So it brings a totally different position, but black goes knight d5 here, white goes knight to e4, bishop b7, pawn c3. So it's a very complicated position as it's hard for both players to find harmony with these pieces. I mean, everything looks clumsy. Maybe white wants to play some h4 move and bishop g5, threading the bishop, or even bishop g5 immediately. It's hard for black really to push on the queen side. It's hard for white to bring an attack on the king side. So we will have to play some clay court move, as I call them. Black could have played a5 to expand the queen side, but he just got a6, more conservative move. Now Svidler is thinking about 20 minutes because it's not easy to develop your pieces really. If you go by example just bishop g5, black could by example take, and I don't know, queen to e7. and it's not easy to see how you would take an advantage with white if those things happen. Just an example, you cannot really push the c pawn as well, so he decides to go a4. Didn't play bishop g5, so he decides to go a4, try to dislocate this pawn structure. Now black pushes the pawn, white goes bishop g5, and black goes pawn to f6. I don't know. He treads. He doesn't want to tread the bishops here. He prefers to kind of make his pawn structure a bit worse, because he has the idea to go pawn to e5 next, and then we'll have a Maroczy-like pawn structure with the two pawns sitting on c5, e5, and this pawn being slightly weak on d3. So he decides to go with this pawn structure, though he's really weakening all those slide squares with this idea. So white goes bishop d2 all the way back, adding up some pressure on b4, but it's well protected, so it's not the right idea. It's the main idea of this move is it's just not to go back to c1, because look, pawn to f6, you can't go on f4, you are attacked, you can't go on e3, you are attacked, and c1 looks weird, so bishop d2, well, adding up some pressure anyway, but it's not the main reason, and pawn to e5. So we have the Maroczy-like pawn structure. So this pawn on d3 is slightly weak, but I mean, not slightly, it's weak. It's like almost backward pawn. But it's not easy to attack it for the moment for black. And well, white has time to react, as black really pushed his pawn far away. So it means it involves weaknesses. White goes rook c1. This is a calm move. He's bringing the rook on the files that could open earlier or later, and black goes rook f7. We will see that this move is not a good one. He would better go queen d7. After pawn d4, a pawn sacrifice, we will see it's a very thematical move in this game. Pawn takes, e takes, knight c5 by example, bishop takes, and rook takes c5. King h8, white has compensation for the pawn, as it has those bishops and this queen coming on c2, maybe rook c1. This pawn on d4 will be hard to keep, but it's an unbalanced position close to be equal. Though black goes rook f7, the idea must be bishop f8 and rook d7 next, as well as covering this diagonal to make sure white is not pinning the knight, so it makes sense. But here the move d4 is a very, very strong move. So black makes a huge mistake here. He's taking b takes c3, and I will explain you why when we go through this in a little while. He could have gone pawn takes, c takes, bishop h3, and bishop to c8. And white retains pressure, but we will see that when the file is opened, it's much worse for black. The bishop h3 is not forced. You could also go queen to c2 or queen to b3. So just to show that black has a way to defend the e6 square. Or he could have gone this pawn takes, take with the knight. This was the other option. Take everything on d4, take with the knight, take, knight to c5, bishop takes, rook takes, and well, this is better for white, but black can still defend. So he could have taken both ways, with the c pawn and taking then with the knight, or with the e pawn with the variation we saw earlier. Though he goes pawn takes c3, and we'll see it change a lot of things. So pawn c3, pawn c3, pawn d4, knight d4, pawn d4. So we have the same position as I showed you last, with the only difference is that there are no pawns on b2 and on b4. And it changed a lot of things, because now white goes queen b3, and it comes along this diagonal and it attacks the bishop in the same time. So black is in deep trouble here. He goes rook to b8, defending the bishop. White goes rook to b1, pinning the bishop. So now if the bishop moves, the rook is just disappearing. We have two attackers. Black goes queen d7, and white goes rook e c1. So he takes his time with his move. Now he wants to play knight to c5, bishop c5 and rook c5, adding pressure on the knight with the rook. This is one of the idea of this move. You can even see sometimes some bishop a5 and rook c8 by example to kick the queen away. I mean if we can get the pin on the knight. So I mean a lot of ideas for white here, and black goes queen e6. That's going to lose a piece. His defense would have been to play f5, knight to c5, bishop takes c5, rook takes c5, knight to f6, because the knight is attacked 3 times, so we have to remove it. Now it's really well attacked. It's knight to f6, bishop to f4, turning the rook, rook c8, rook takes c8, bishop takes c8, and queen c4. So with this very precise line with the black pieces, black could have saved the piece, though it was hard to find. But even then, playing the best computer moves, rook b8 is coming next, and it's really hard to see how you play with all those problems with your king and all those pins just for a pawn. So white has a very strong advantage here, very big compensation. But he goes queen e6, so instead of f5 he goes queen e6. White goes knight c5 anyway, bishop takes, rook takes. So now it's the same situation, only the knight is pinned. Black goes rook to d8, defending the knight. Bishop to a5 now, turning the rook. Rook d6. And queen to c4. And here, white threats rook b7 and bishop takes d5. So this is a very strong threat, and black has no way to meet this move. He has no way to defend from this threat. If you go by example rook d7, that maybe you think, well, I overprotect my knight. I mean, I'm bringing one more piece. The things after rook takes, this rook is anyway deviated from the knight, and you are losing the piece the same way. So black really has no solutions to these problems. He cannot find answers. He goes knight to c3, so he threats the rook. It's trying to mutter the water, but now white simply goes rook takes b7. The bishops protect the rook. So black goes queen e1 check, bishop f1 covering the check. But now the rook on b7 is not protected anymore. But the thing is that the rook is pinned, so it doesn't matter. Black goes knight to e2 check to deviate the queen from the rook, and white is taking the rook, the knight on e2. Black resigns here, so it's a very big win for Peter Svidler. If black continues by rook queen e2, white would play rook b8 intermediate check move. So if you take the queen, if you retake the queen, it would take your rook, like that probably. So this is no good news for white. But the thing is that white doesn't have to take immediately the queen. He goes rook b8 check, rook f8, rook takes f8, another check, king f8, and bishop takes e2. I mean, with 2 extra bishops for a pawn, I believe Svidler would have converted the game pretty easily. Let's face the truth, for these guys even a pawn up is a lot, so 2 bishops, a bit too much. Well, we'll see. As I said at the start of the video, there is 4 games in this final, so Karjakin has time to bounce back. But Svidler has taken a big advantage, because I mean, even it's 4 games is more than 2. I mean, it's not a lot. It's not the 12 or 14 games you see in the final World Championship those days. I mean, it's only 4 games, and you have to strike back quickly. So we'll see how what are the answers Karjakin find to those problems. See you for the next round tomorrow. Bye.